Mental training and visualization is a fascinating process that has been shown over and over again in now hundreds of studies to improve our ability to learn anything. When I say anything, I mean the ability to learn music, the ability to learn and perform mathematics, the ability to learn and perform motor skills in sport, in dance, across essentially all domains.
Welcome back to Biohacking Insights. In today's video, Dr. Andrew Huberman explains the most effective way to learn skills using visualization. How can you maximize the potential of mental training and visualization? And how can you do it correctly according to Dr. Huberman's recommendations? Let's find out. According to Huberman, mental training and visualization is a powerful technique that's been around for centuries. Back in 1880, a scientist named Sir Francis Galton even published a study on how people form mental images and use them to learn faster. So, how does this work?
Mental training and visualization relies on a process that we call neuroplasticity.
This technique works because of something called neuroplasticity. This means your brain can actually change and adapt throughout your life. There are two main types. Developmental plasticity. This happens as you naturally grow up, from birth to around the age of 25. Your brain is constantly making new connections and strengthening existing ones based on your experiences. And adult-directed adaptive plasticity. This is the fascinating part. It allows you to consciously direct your brain's changes to learn new things. You can use it to improve your memory, master a physical skill, or even become better at public speaking.
It requires two things. The first thing it requires is focused, dedicated attention to the thing that you're trying to learn. That's the first step.
But Huberman says for this, you need two things. First one is focused attention. And according to him, when you concentrate on something you're trying to learn, your brain releases chemicals that signal it needs to adapt. That feeling of frustration or agitation you might get while studying. Well, he says that's actually a good sign. It means your brain is working hard to make new connections and improve your skills.
This heightened level of alertness and attention that many of us don't like and tend to back away from, but it is exactly that chemical, or I should say neurochemical milieu, which signals to the neurons, the nerve cells in the brain and elsewhere in the body, that something needs to change.
So that was the first step. What comes next? What should follow deep focused attention?
But there's a second component that's really required for self-directed adaptive plasticity, and that's periods of deep rest, in particular, a good night's sleep, in particular, on the night that follows that focused attention to the thing you're trying to learn.
The first part of supercharging your learning with mental training is all about focus. But there's a second secret ingredient too, which is deep rest, especially a good night's sleep on the very first night after you put in that focused effort. Hundreds of studies show that sleep is when the magic happens. It's during sleep, particularly that first night of sleep after focused learning, that your brain rewires itself. This rewiring is called neuroplasticity, and it's basically the strengthening and rearranging of connections between your brain cells. So while you're busy catching some Z's, your brain is consolidating all that new information and solidifying those new skills you're working on. Even if you don't snag that perfect night's sleep that first night, don't worry, there can still be benefits on the second and third nights of sleep also. But ideally, you want to prioritize a good night's rest whenever you're learning something new. After all, a well-rested brain is a learning machine. So sleep is important, but to truly maximize your brain's potential, you need a good training program alongside that rest. That's where effective mental training helps. And by effective, we mean the things that actually work. According to Huberman, there are some key principles to turn your brain into a learning powerhouse. Let's talk about them. If you're finding this content helpful, please leave a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more in-depth insights and tips. Watch till the end to know 5 principles of mental training and visualization that a neuroscientist approves. So what would be the first principle for effective mental training?
So what we're talking about here is, thus far, 5 principles of mental training and visualization that are well established from the scientific research literature. And
the first golden rule of mental training is keeping it short and sweet. Imagine squeezing your visualizations into bite-sized chunks, lasting no more than 15 seconds each. Think of it like showing yourself a quick movie trailer, not the entire film. We need no elaborate daydreams or complex sequences. We want clear, focused snapshots. The more you bombard your brain with details, the harder it is to remember them accurately. This is especially true if you struggle to visualize in the first place. So the first principle is to keep it simple. And repetition is key here. The more you repeat these short, clear visualizations, the more effectively you train your brain.
So this is the second principle of mental training and visualization.
The second principle of mental training is a bit surprising. The first principle was to keep it short and simple. But here's a little twist. Even though visualizing something activates similar brain areas as actually doing it, it doesn't translate directly to better skills. So mental training cannot really replace real training. That means if you want to learn something new, like playing the guitar, practicing for real is much more effective than just imagining yourself shredding like a rock star. But that doesn't mean ditching visualization altogether. We just need to combine it.
If you want to learn something, the ideal situation is to combine real training in the physical world with mental training.
You can't actually imagine switching between a vase and two faces in your mind, even though you can see it in real life. This is the third principle. Mental training is most powerful when combined with real-world actions. Imagine tracing that impossible figure. Then visualize it again. Suddenly, switching between the faces and the vase becomes easy. It's the combo of real-world experience and mental imagery that supercharges your learning.
And the third principle of mental training and visualization is that you need to combine mental training and visualization with real-world behaviors and experiences that are very, very similar. So naming and giving an identity to a real-world skill and applying the same name or identity to the mental version of that, the visualization of that, can enhance the mental training and visualization in significant ways.
Let's add another layer to this. Remember how people struggled to imagine switching between the vase and the face image? But after drawing it, they could visualize it easily. This is because labeling things with real-world terms activates more brain areas. Our brains are wired to understand faces, for example. So the fourth principle is give your visualizations real-world labels. Linking the mental image with a real action and a clear label strengthens the connection in your brain, making learning more effective. And that brings us to the fifth and fascinating principle. Mental imagery is like a mirror to real-world experiences. This means your visualizations can be even more powerful by adding simple eye movements to match what you're picturing.
And the fifth principle of effective mental training and visualization is this notion of equivalence of mental imagery versus real-world perception and behavior.
Mental visualization closely mimics real-world experiences. Studies show people move their eyes upwards when imagining things above them, like a ceiling, and downwards for things below, like a snake. The time it takes to visualize details also reflects reality. It takes longer to focus on a small object, like a mouse, compared to a larger one, like an elephant. This similarity extends to motor skills. Complex movements take longer to visualize than simple ones. This equivalence is the fifth principle. Mental imagery is very similar to real-world perception and behavior. Eye movements can further enhance mental training. Deliberately moving your eyes in the direction of what you're visualizing activates more brain circuits, similar to real-world actions. If you want to get better at mental training and visualization, then imagine small, clear pictures like movie trailers, not full films. That's rule number 1. 2. The real world is your best training ground, so combine your mind's eye with real actions for a supercharge. 3. Magic words help. Give your mental images real-world names, like perfect jump shot. 4. Mirror your actions carefully. Imagine yourself swinging that tennis racket while picturing your perfect swing. This creates a brain connection powerhouse. 5. Move your eyes in the direction you'd look in real life while visualizing. It adds another layer of sculpting power. Follow these rules and your mind's eye becomes a master sculptor, ready to help you learn anything you want to learn. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our life-changing videos. If you enjoy this video, our next video will teach you how to be successful by not telling anyone your life plans. Stay tuned.